In a quiet suburban neighborhood, mornings at the Thompson household followed a familiar rhythm. Daniel woke to the smell of fresh coffee drifting from the kitchen, the soft hum of the baby monitor faint in the background. Sarah was always up before him, quietly moving through the house, preparing breakfast and packing his lunch. Without fail, by the time Daniel stumbled into the kitchen, she'd greet him with a tired but loving smile, her hands already busy scrambling eggs or wiping down the counter. Emma, their 2-year-old daughter, giggled in her high chair, a spoon clutched in her tiny hand as Sarah fed her bits of fruit. Daniel kissed Sarah on the cheek, grabbed his briefcase, and slipped out the door. At work, he threw himself into meetings and reports, knowing that when the day ended, he'd come home to the same comforting routine: a home-cooked meal, Emma's playful squeals, and Sarah's quiet presence. Life felt predictable, even peaceful. They had fallen into their roles seamlessly, Daniel as the provider and Sarah as the caregiver and homemaker. In the evenings, Daniel would walk through the door to find Emma playing quietly with her toys or watching cartoons. The smell of dinner greeted him, something hearty like roast chicken or pasta, and he'd hear Sarah bustling about in the kitchen, setting plates on the table. She always seemed to have everything under control. They'd eat together, Daniel occasionally tossing a toy or making silly faces at Emma to hear her laugh. Sarah, however, stayed mostly quiet, nibbling at her food with a soft smile that never quite reached her eyes. Everything seemed perfect until Daniel started to notice a big change in his wife's demeanor. Daniel Thompson felt something was off. His wife, Sarah, seemed perpetually exhausted. Every evening when Daniel returned from work, she would collapse onto the couch, barely able to keep her eyes open. He knew being a stay-at-home mom with their 2-year-old daughter, Emma, could be tiring, but it seemed like Sarah's exhaustion went beyond what he expected. At first, Daniel tried to be understanding. It must be Emma, he thought, convincing himself that their daughter's energy was wearing Sarah down. But as the weeks passed, his patience wore thin. He found it hard to believe that looking after one child could drain her to such an extent. She rarely went out, skipped dinners with friends, and even neglected hobbies she once loved. Every time Daniel asked, Sarah would just give the same tired smile and say, "It's just one of those days." But every day? Daniel's curiosity grew, his mind wandering into darker places. Maybe she wasn't telling him everything. Was she hiding something? What if she was sneaking away during the day, or worse, having an affair? The thought gnawed at him, though he didn't want to believe it. He decided he had to know the truth. Rather than confront her directly, Daniel devised a plan. Daniel ordered a small, discreet camera online, one with night vision and a motion detector, and installed it in their bedroom. He figured this way he could see what was really going on when he wasn't around. The camera would also capture the moments when Sarah came back from her day, whether she was running errands, taking naps, or possibly meeting someone. For the first few days, Daniel tried to act normal. He kissed Sarah goodbye each morning, left for work, and returned in the evening as usual, pretending everything was fine. But as soon as Sarah went to bed, Daniel grabbed his laptop and checked the footage. The first day revealed nothing unusual. Sarah spent most of her time running after Emma, preparing meals and tidying up the house. She seemed busy, but not to the point of exhaustion. Maybe I need more time, Daniel told himself. On the second day, Daniel saw something surprising. After putting Emma down for a nap, Sarah didn't rest. Instead, she dragged a laundry basket upstairs, folded clothes in silence, and vacuumed the entire house. Daniel watched her move from one chore to the next without stopping. Not once did she take a moment to sit down. By the third day, Daniel's confusion deepened. Sarah's routine was relentless. She woke up early, packed Daniel's lunch, and juggled housework with Emma's needs throughout the day. It became clear she wasn't sneaking off or meeting anyone, but she still seemed more exhausted than ever. Something didn't add up. Then on the fourth night, Daniel's camera captured something unexpected, something that made his stomach turn. Around 2 a.m., Sarah stirred in bed, barely visible in the dim light. She sat up quietly, checked the baby monitor on her nightstand, and sighed deeply. Emma was awake again, crying softly in her crib. Daniel watched as Sarah slipped out of bed and made her way to their daughter's room, rubbing her eyes. The footage showed Sarah scooping Emma into her arms and soothing her back to sleep. At first it seemed like a sweet, ordinary moment. But then Daniel realized this wasn't the only time it happened. Throughout the night, the camera recorded Sarah getting up every couple of hours. Each time Emma cried, Sarah was there, rocking her back to sleep. Daniel rewound the footage from previous nights, and his heart sank. This had been happening every night. While Daniel slept soundly, Sarah was waking up multiple times, comforting their daughter and carrying the weight of both day and night. The next morning, Daniel felt a pang of guilt as he looked at Sarah, who was already making breakfast, dark circles under her eyes. He had been so caught up in his suspicions that he hadn't realized how much she was doing, how little sleep she was getting. That evening, after putting Emma to bed, Daniel sat beside Sarah on the couch. "I saw the footage," he admitted quietly. Sarah raised an eyebrow. "What footage?" Daniel hesitated but decided to come clean. "I installed a camera in the bedroom. I wanted to see why you've been so tired lately." For a moment, Sarah said nothing, stunned by his confession. Then, slowly, her expression softened. "You wanted to catch me doing something, didn't you?" Daniel nodded, ashamed. "I thought maybe you were sneaking off. Or something else. But instead, I saw you getting up every night with Emma. I didn't know." Sarah leaned back against the couch, exhaustion still evident in her posture. "I didn't want to bother you," she said. "You work so hard, and I figured I could handle it." Daniel's heart ached at her words. "You've been handling everything alone," he whispered. "I should have known." He reached out and took her hand. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have been helping you all along." Sarah gave him a tired smile. "It's okay. But I won't lie, it's been tough." That night, Daniel made a promise to himself things were going to change. From now on, he would be an active partner in raising their daughter and running their household. It wasn't just Sarah's responsibility, it was theirs. The next night, when Emma's cries echoed through the baby monitor, Daniel was the one who got up. He cradled his daughter gently, singing a lullaby until she drifted back to sleep. When he returned to bed, Sarah gave him a sleepy, grateful smile. And that was just the beginning. Daniel started waking up early to help with breakfast and took over the late-night feedings on weekends so Sarah could get uninterrupted sleep. He also began doing chores without being asked: laundry, dishes, grocery shopping, small things that made a big difference. Over time, the change in Sarah was noticeable. She seemed more relaxed, her energy returning little by little. With Daniel sharing the load, she finally had moments to rest, to read a book, or take a walk without feeling overwhelmed. Their relationship grew stronger, too. Daniel learned to appreciate the countless unseen things Sarah had been doing for their family, and Sarah, in turn, felt more connected to Daniel than ever, knowing she could rely on him. One evening, as they sat together on the porch, Emma asleep in her crib, Daniel turned to Sarah. "I'm sorry it took me so long to see how much you were doing," he said softly. Sarah rested her head on his shoulder. "You see it now. That's what matters." And it did matter. From that day forward, they faced every challenge as a team. No more assumptions, no more secrets, just love and mutual respect. Daniel never needed the camera again. He had learned the most important lesson of all sometimes. The exhaustion you see isn't laziness or deceit, it's love in its purest, hardest form. The kind that wakes up in the middle of the night. The kind that never quits, even when no one is watching.